The Golden Legend of Shwedagon. The afternoon sun spilled gold across Yangon, and the great Shwedagon Pagoda rose like a jewel above the city. Its gilded stupa gleamed so brightly that even the youngest eyes could not look away. On a shaded bench near the pagoda's southern entrance, an old man sat with his grandson, a boy of 10 who carried endless questions in his heart. "Grandfather," the boy asked, tugging at the old man's sleeve, "why is the Shwedagon so special? Why do people from everywhere bow before it?" The old man smiled, his wrinkled face lit with pride. "Ah, my dear grandson, that is a story older than all the cities you see. Let me tell you, for the Shwedagon is not just bricks and gold, it is the spirit of our land." The boy leaned closer, eyes wide. "The gift of hair relics. Long, long ago," the grandfather began, "during the lifetime of the Buddha, 2 merchant brothers from Okalapa Tapusa and Balika traveled far with their caravan. One day, by great fortune, they met the Buddha himself after his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. The brothers offered food, and in return, the Blessed One gave them 8 strands of his sacred hair. Imagine, child, such a gift. They carried it carefully back to their homeland, where King Okalapa reigned. When the relics were enshrined, the earth trembled, flowers rained from the sky, and a great light shone even brighter than the sun. That was the first foundation of what we now call the Shwedagon." The boy's mouth fell open. 8 hairs became this whole pagoda? The grandfather chuckled softly. "Yes, for you see, with time, kings and queens, monks and lay people all added to it layer upon layer, devotion upon devotion. The pagoda through the ages." The old man's voice carried the rhythm of history as he spoke. In the early centuries, Shwedagon was smaller, modest compared to its glory today. Yet even then, it stood proudly on Singatara Hill, where relics of 3 earlier Buddhas were already enshrined. That is why the site was chosen. Later, kings of Bagan, Inwa, Hanthawadi, and many more contributed. Each believed that honoring the pagoda would strengthen not only their reign but the soul of the nation. Queen Shin Sabu, a great donor, gave her own weight in gold to gild the stupa. Imagine, she was small in body but vast in spirit. And not only the rulers, common people, farmers, and fishermen too, brought what they could. Even a coin, even a pinch of rice added to the merit. The boy whispered, "So it belongs to everyone." "Exactly," the grandfather said, nodding. "That is why when you see the Shwedagon, you are seeing the faith of an entire people shining in the sunlight. Trials and preservation." The boy frowned. "But grandfather, if it is so holy, why does it still need guarding?" The old man sighed, his eyes distant. "Because, my son, holiness does not protect against greed. In the time of the British, soldiers came and took treasures from this very hill. Wars scarred it, earthquakes shook it, yet the Shwedagon always rose again. Our ancestors protected it with their lives. They rebuilt the stupa after each storm, polished the bells after each theft, and replaced the gold when it grew dim. To defend the pagoda was to defend our identity." The boy's small hands clenched. Did people ever lose faith? The grandfather shook his head firmly. "Never. The Shwedagon is like a flame, winds may bend it, but they cannot snuff it out. The symbol of hope." The sun dipped lower, painting the stupa with red and amber. The boy stared at the diamond orb that crowned the tip, sparkling like a star. "Grandfather," he asked softly, "why do people pray so much here? Do their prayers really reach the heavens?" The old man's voice grew gentle. "When people bow here, they do not only ask for blessings, they also remember who they are. The Shwedagon tells us that our land has endured kings and conquerors, wars and peace, joy and sorrow. It reminds us that no matter how small we are, our devotion can shine brighter than gold. Do you see that diamond, my boy? At night it reflects different colors, sometimes red, sometimes green, sometimes white. That is how life is too. Many colors, many changes, but always returning to the same light. The boy's eyes sparkled. Then when I grow up, I will give something to the Shwedagon too. The grandfather placed a hand on his shoulder. Yes, not only gold or jewels, but your kindness, your honesty, your love for the people. These are offerings the Shwedagon will always accept. A legacy passed on. As the bells rang softly in the evening wind, pilgrims climbed the stairs carrying flowers, candles, and prayers. The grandfather and grandson watched together in silence for a while. Finally, the boy asked one last question. Grandfather, when you are gone, who will tell this story? The old man smiled, though his eyes glistened. You will, my son. That is how the Shwedagon lives, not only in its golden stupa, but in the stories carried from one generation to the next. When you tell your children, and they tell theirs, the light of the Shwedagon will never fade. The boy leaned against his grandfather, gazing up at the pagoda as its golden surface caught the last rays of the sun. In that moment, he felt not just the weight of history, but the warmth of belonging, as if the 8 strands of hair still glowed within, whispering across centuries. Faith endures, love endures, this light will never die. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more stories and animations.